Hello, GitHub universe.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are joining us from. Welcome to Open Source Friday. For those of you who've not joined us before, I'm Andrea, a la Colombia dev everywhere, and this is Open Source Friday, a GitHub sponsored stream where we talk to the makers, the contributors, the maintainers, and everyone who lives in this wonderful ecosystem of open source with the hope to highlight their amazing achievements, to inspire others to join this ecosystem, and to have a little fun because it's been a long week, folks. So before we get started, I have to comment on what you just saw, and that will be GitHub Universe. We are now, I guess, a little bit over a week and a half. It's getting down to the final countdown. Super excited for everything that the team is working on. There's going to be some major announcements. If you haven't yet, check out our X account. There has been some teasers coming out. Our CEO has also posted some teasers from their personal accounts. So go ahead and give Ashton a follow and check it out. It's 100% free to join virtually, and there are still tickets available. So if you'd like to join us at the Yerba Buena Center in San Francisco, November 8th and 9th, go ahead and get your ticket. I will be there. Practically my entire team is going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of awesome folks coming from overseas and all over the place. So it's going to be really exciting and interesting time to be in San Francisco. But let's talk about today. Today, I have the treats of all treats. And if you know why you're here, if you know who Quincy Larson is and what FreeCodeCamp is, I would love to hear from you in the chat. I'm getting ready to get super cheesy here, and you'll have to excuse me, because I know we as nerds sometimes don't like to talk about emotions, but I owe a lot to FreeCodeCamp. It's been a very big part of why I even switched into tech to begin with. I am a career changer, and this gave me the tools to get started. You know, there wasn't a lot of resources. You have to like physically go to the library at one point, folks. You have to like check out books and things. So for those of you who've been in the internet for a long time, you remember that sound trying to get dial-up to go in. And then there was a revolution in education, and it came single-handedly because one amazing human being decided, you know what, there's gotta be a better way to do this. Having been a self-taught developer himself, Quincy took it up on a challenge to reinvent the way that tech education works. And they say, don't meet your heroes. He probably won't remember because I am sure he's shaken a million hands, and everywhere he goes, I'm sure folks want to talk to him. But I actually met him in person, and that saying, don't meet your heroes, you know, you'll be disappointed, couldn't be farther from the truth. He was the most approachable person, super kind, and actually entertaining my babbling, like, yes, thank you, I use your product, and this is how I now have a career, and I'm trying to get a job at GitHub. So just super grateful for everything that he's brought, not only to the industry, but education as a whole. So without further ado, let's introduce Mr. Quincy Larson.
Hey, how's it going, Andrea?
How is it going with you? I am just so unbelievably humbled that you accepted my deranged amount of DMs on Twitter, on X, until finally you were like, okay, fine, yes, I guess I'll do this. Thank you. I know this isn't always easy. There's always time and things, and you're running a whole nonprofit and open source project and trying to have a life. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here, Quincy.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come on and talk with the GitHub Open Source Friday audience, and thank you for your kind words. Like, I don't know, I don't know. I'm really speechless. I don't really know what to say, but like, of course, I know your story, and I know that as an immigrant, you served in the U.S. Army, and when you were transitioning from military life to civilian life, that you had to use a lot of different resources to get to where you are today. And I feel so incredibly proud that FreeCodeCamp was one of the resources that helped you get where you are today, which is a position of great influence among developers. And it sounds like you're doing so much for the open source ecosystem. So again, I just want to thank you, and I'm grateful. Like, when I met you, and I'll be completely candid, it was probably many years ago. I don't remember that exact exchange.
It has been like 2017, maybe.
Yeah.
At Code New Year, New York. This is
okay.
Codeland, the very
Codeland, New York City, the inaugural Codeland.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I'm just so I guess relieved that I was like very.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. No, I love meeting new people, and so yeah. If you ever see me at an event, anybody watching, like, please do come talk to me. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. I can't guarantee that like 6 years from now I'll remember that exact exchange, but obviously I know a whole lot about Andrea. I've been following her on Twitter for a while.
Oh my gosh! I'm so embarrassed. Are you kidding me? It is me who has been following you, and I think I echo the sentiment that we're seeing on the LinkedIn stream and YouTube, and everyone is just sharing like what a great resource FreeCodeCamp is. And I know that if you're here, you care about open source, and maybe this resource made a big impact in your life. Like, literally what you say, there were a lot of resources. There were a lot of resources that were very expensive. I remember how many bootcamp ads I had popping up when I started to look into, I'm like, what can I do to actually legitimize what I know and go on and give this a real go, right? And the beauty of FreeCodeCamp, the community approach, the way that it was laid out. The website right now looks completely different than it did, my God, 6 years ago. And obviously in 2014, was it that you launched? But I want to talk to you about the very beginnings, because there is not going to be just one person, but 100 saying, hundreds of thousands, millions saying, hey, it's changing my life. It has changed my life, because it is. It has, Quincy. Quincy, what in the world? So you were out there working, you were a self-taught developer, and you were like, you know what? Let's tackle this small problem of developer education. What prompted you to do this? Where did the idea come from? And how were those like beginning stages of creating what is this absolute powerhouse of education now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a teacher and a school director, and I just wanted to like make my school more efficient. A lot of our teachers and administrators at the school I was running, which was an adult education, English as a second language school in California, I was trying to help them spend less time on their computer and more time working with learners and having conversation practice, just hanging out around the city. We were in the city of Santa Barbara, a beautiful city. And so I just kind of like learned some basic scripts and some Excel macros and stuff like that, like just Googling very basic, fundamental stuff that probably everybody who's learning the program has Googled, and just trying to do stuff and getting things that actually work. And once you get things that actually work, you see how powerful technology is, even a little bit of programming knowledge. So I was like, wow, I want to like learn how to code properly. And then I spent a year learning how to code properly. I detail this in great detail in the book that I published a few months ago, which I just published an audiobook version of last week. It's completely free. It's called.
Let's share it. Yes, let me find it and share it right now.
Just Google "Learn to Code" book, and I think it's like the top result. There might be some ads at the top, but go to that and you can like read. And I go into a great detail on like all the different, like dealing with imposter syndrome, trying to get my foot in the door at a tech company, all the different battles that you face when you're transitioning to tech. And of course, everybody's journey is different. I'm a person of privilege, and I didn't have a lot of the struggles that a lot of other people are going to face when they're coming into it. If I was 30, I think 31 when I was transitioning as a developer, but a lot of people are a lot older than that, or they don't have the benefit of having worked in like a knowledge worker career before, so they don't have the savings and stuff like that. And there's all kinds of discrimination and other things that you have to overcome as well. But I hope that book will give you some context into my own journey. But essentially, I just wanted to get a job as a developer and learn how to do development well. And then, that's like the best economic mobility there is helping people who have a degree in, social work or English, which is what I have a degree in, helping them transition into a technical role. Because the jobs, you get so much more money, you earn so much more money, and you also have a much greater degree of freedom. You can potentially work remotely. Your boss is not micromanaging every single thing you do. They're looking more at the output of your effort as opposed to managing that process of you creating it. Like I used to work at Taco Bell for a couple of years, and everything was systematized, and they'd like call me in at certain times, and I just have to show up and work the drive-through. And like, how do we get people out of that kind of lifestyle where you're just beholden to this low-paying, high-demand job that's not very fulfilling? How do we get them into roles where they can apply their creativity and come up with, novel solutions and things like that? And I think teaching people to code is one of the most immediate ways we can do that.
I love that. Because there are so many people that have such incredible experience in their own fields. Even you at that drive-thru in Taco Bell, like, what you were doing, right? And now apply technology to that and see, like, that's a whole new career. You're now an expert that has a technical application to bring your creativity and improve processes and do all these things. I think for a lot of us, financial mobility was a big motivator to come into tech. I know definitely I 100% own my lifestyle and the way that I've been able to provide for my children and my family because of being able to work in this environment. If the pandemic and all the challenges that we have, like, changing into a fully remote workforce, if it's taught us anything, it's like tech is a great space to be in, very resilient, right? And I know there's a lot of us that have struggled in the past couple of years trying to get over, the layoffs and all this stuff. But wow, what a difference it made that somebody thought outside the box and was like, what, let me see if I can do this. And having the educational background, like being a person who was a teacher, I guess that was important to you too, right? I think like a lot of people that are really amazing leaders and engineering managers that I know personally, they all have some kind of educational background. They all have it in them. Like they want to help people just be the best and learn best.
Yeah, like FreeCodeCamp, like our team is almost all teachers. There's a few people that like just have like a pure engineering background, but like I consider teaching to be like a skill, just like coding or like anything else that you get better with with practice. You can certainly learn it through. You could do like a master's of education, or you could just get you could apply for your states, like to become a substitute teacher and start there. And gradually work up. But I think that teaching and having experience empathizing with the person you're communicating to, what is teaching? It's really a form of communication. You have to structure your communication in a way that people are going to be able to understand it, that it's not going to intimidate them. And you have to like get information from your head into their head. It's very much like coding, which is essentially teaching a computer. It's like communicating to a computer what the computer needs to do. Teaching is similar in that regard. So a lot of this comes down to just having a really granular understanding of a topic or a problem you're trying to solve and being able to, succinctly, crisply solve that problem and communicate it to the computer. So I mean, like coding, teaching, they're both essentially communication at the end of the day. They're thinking and then communicating.
Oh, you're 100% correct. And I think that in many ways, FreeCodeCamp, like I feel like now you see a lot of projects that have documentation. Even GitHub, the way that we use certain things, like we have a playground within some of our documentations, or like if you're gonna do something in GraphQL, like there is a UI that you can actually have a playground. That was one of the things that was the most captivating to me in FreeCodeCamp, because I could do not only the order in which I was learning things, but I could do, like, I didn't need to go anywhere else to do anything. Like everything was right there in the website for me to practice, for me to do the exercise. And that was huge. It wasn't like, it helped kept it like, okay, this is where you start. Tell me, like, what was it like for you? Like that original design, obviously having a strong educational background helped. But was this the way that you wish you learned, or like what drove you to having like that very visual way of teaching?
Yeah.
And keeping it fun, honestly, because it can be very boring to learn some of these things. So like, where did that come from? Like the original design?
So one of the most confusing things about learning to code for me was like there were so many resources, right? You've got textbooks from the 1970s that are still kind of the textbook that you use if you want to learn C, for example, or if you want to understand a certain type of like computer science concept or something. And then you've got contemporary books, O'Reilly, PacPub, Manning, like all these different publishers are publishing books constantly. And then you've got, all the university courses that you can take online. Like Stanford has their own portal where you can take, like I took the Stanford database class, and a lot of my friends took the algorithms class, for example. So what do you learn? Right? Like, and then where do you learn what you need to learn? And I was like, if we can figure out a way to come up with a single kind of linear path that is a sane default, where like, yes, you can definitely optimize. You could go and learn different resources are going to be really strong for different things. But if we can get a good enough resource on responsive web design, then we can have a good enough resource on JavaScript algorithms and data structures. Then we can have a good enough resource on learning full stack development. Then we can have a good enough resource on learning scientific computing and Python. If we can have a single linear curriculum, that eliminates so much of the hidden work of learning to code, which is evaluating resources, doubting yourself constantly. Like, am I even learning the right thing? Like FreeCodeCamp, we just simplify that by not having any electives. You just work from top to bottom. When in doubt, work top to bottom. You can, of course, skip around if you feel confident that you don't need to do a particular section. And then you prove that you know what you're talking about by building the 5 certification projects. And then you get a free verified certification that you can put on your LinkedIn, your resume, your CV. So we just wanted it to be that very simple process of learn, demonstrate, put that certification on your LinkedIn, and move on to the next step, right? And we also designed the curriculum where it's kind of like, if you look at like the triangle of jobs, right? Like you can keep moving up the so-called pyramid of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it like a pyramid, because if you think about it, like there's a foundational base of knowledge, and a lot of those jobs just use those foundational skills. Like I'm fond of telling people that, like, if you learn Python, SQL, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, Git, and Linux, if you learn those 7 tools, then you can go out and you can get most developer jobs. Most developer jobs are going to use some sort of high-level scripting language. They're going to have some sort of UI component that you can do with HTML, CSS, or some sort of library if you're doing like a Flutter or something like that. And then you're going to be working with databases. And then you can learn a little bit of computer science concepts about how networks work, how web servers work, things like that. But really, like, it's just different variations of those same foundational technologies. So, of course, we start the FreeCodeCamp curriculum and we very quickly teach those specific tools. And then we go to the more advanced stuff. The idea being that you can complete like just a few certifications. You can start applying for jobs if you'd like, or start getting freelance clients. So we kind of wanted it to be like a shortest path to getting a developer job. And then you can come back and you're already working as a developer, you can continue to expand your skills, refine your skills, and potentially become a senior developer.
Yeah.
And keep progressing, or go and be like a founding CTO at a tech company, right? And we also have like this huge ecosystem of extracurricular resources, if you will. We've got like 1,000 full-length courses on YouTube. We've got more than 10,000 text-based tutorials on all manner of technologies. We're publishing a lot of full-length books that are completely free online. So we had the extracurricular stuff, but we really encourage people to just stay on the core curriculum initially and branch out once you get a job. You can specialize on the job, but be a strong generalist before you go out into the job market.
Yeah. I love the idea of giving people the tools to get started, get certifications that are recognizable, and then you can keep going and you can go through the more advanced paths, but you're equipped to start working, whether it be in your own projects. I love also the project base, the fact that I'm actually building things as I'm going, not just learning, because it's a way to learn. And I think a lot of these courses, they teach us to learn, so that you go show up at this job and maybe that they don't manage the stuff that you are familiar with, but you learn how to learn with FreeCodeCamp, so you can pick it up.
Absolutely.
Basics. Do you remember the first time that someone finished like the entire as it was? Because mind you, like if we rewind, let's say you launched in 2014, was it?
Yes, October 2014. We just turned 9 years old.
Okay. Oh my gosh, coming up on a decade. Wow. Do you remember the first time someone like completed up to where you have? I can't remember if it was.
So we just had, I think, like 3 certifications at the time. We called them front end, back end, and I think they're like data visualization or something. We changed the certification names because we didn't want people to think like, oh, I've got the front end developer certification, I can go get a front end developer job. In practice, it's not that cut and dry. Like there's
right.
Yeah, we always want to, like, I guess, under promise and over deliver. We don't want people to. We wouldn't want someone to think like, oh, okay, I can just go out and get a developer job now. Like, no big deal, because it's always challenging to get the developer job. So we just changed it to specific technologies instead. So we did rename all those certifications, and we dramatically increased the number of different projects within them. And now, if you look at the responsive web design and the relational database certification, those 2 certifications, everything is project oriented. Soon, the Python scientific computing will be completely project oriented, and the JavaScript algorithms and data structures will be completely project oriented. So we're giving everything that treatment, everything within the context of a project. But to your question, do I remember the first time? There were a lot of people that we'd all hang out in chat. Like, we use this tool called Gitter, which is like a Git based chat. Like, you sign in with GitHub, and it was kind of like almost like a chat layer on top of GitHub. And we would all hang out there, and I remember people would be like, yeah, I completed the whole thing. And people were going out and getting jobs. And that was like a huge revelation, is like, wow, like this is working. People are getting the skills they need to get through technical interviews. And like they'd read like technical interview books and do some additional like preparation, like go on like LeetCode or, Top Coder, like different websites like that to do coding practice. My favorite, of course, Project Euler, which we now have like most of the Project Euler problems and most of the Rosetta code. And we're working on getting like the Odin project working on FreeCodeCamp and stuff too. So like all those learning resources, we're creating like interactive versions of them. But yeah, people could go out and get the job. Sorry, I keep going off on tangents. People could go out and get a job with those certifications. And that was just like, whoa. And, today, like the LinkedIn Alumni Network, if you go to the LinkedIn Alumni Network, just go on LinkedIn and search FreeCodeCamp. There's like 1.3 million people who follow that. And, hundreds of thousands of them have earned FreeCodeCamp certifications that they've added to their LinkedIn. And I've personally verified through a very lengthy process a few years ago that there were like 40,000 people, at least, so as of several years ago, who had gotten their first developer job after they'd earned one of their FreeCodeCamp certifications.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
The alumni network.
If you take a look at it, like it is remarkable. I mean, where are the people? Where do they work? They work at Fiverr. They work at Microsoft. They work at Amazon. And where they are, I love this. From Egypt, New York, Spain, London. I mean, working at AWS, working at Oracle. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, the impact is undeniable. I think community is played a humongous part on the growth and how it became such an accessible thing. Because I remember a time where like there wasn't a lot of information and you had to kind of go digging. And then I think I dare say, and maybe I'll try this when I'm in New York next week, ask people if they know what FreeCodeCamp is. And I think the answer is gonna be yes, more than like, like for a percentage, like you have a great, because it's community driven awareness that now people, you want to learn how to do this. There's something free and it's super great. You can get a certification and you can start right now at your own pace. Just go for it. So how has the community helped? I know that there is definitely, I know a lot of people that come through. I still from time to time see the Twitter or the X post saying like, I got my certificate, and people like so proudly and justly so, because listen, it's tough. And to complete it and to get through it, I mean, my history, I definitely did not complete all my certifications. I started and got what I needed to get me going, and then kept going from there, which is, I'm sure, a lot of folks' story, right? Like,
yeah, it's very common for people to complete some and go get a job, and
exactly.
maybe come back and complete some more later. But that's what we want. We don't you shouldn't have to complete all of them before you start applying for jobs, and so the community plays a huge part. We, of course, have the forum where very kind, thoughtful people will answer your questions. They'll give you, and they won't just answer, oh, you forgot this. They'll use kind of like the Socratic method, like Socrates from the Greek philosopher. He would ask questions to guide people to the answer, right? That's a very important part of FreeCodeCamp's teaching ethos, is we want people to discover the answer themselves, so they still have that joy of that revelation. Oh yeah, that's what's wrong. That's what's going on here. If you just give people that, then they don't learn, right? They get past the challenge, but they didn't really like put in the work to learn. So they'll kind of guide you closer toward an answer. And then, of course, if you build a project and you want some feedback on it, we have tons of people giving feedback on the projects. So if you're watching this and you want to get involved in the FreeCodeCamp community, one way is to just hang out on the forum and give people feedback on their projects and help people get unstuck. And by teaching, you actually learn, you solidify your own understanding of things. Some of the best, like the most well-versed, most articulate people on topics are not necessarily subject domain experts who are working in like a scientific field or something. They're the teachers who have to go out and like teach those concepts, right? Because they have to constantly like rethink about it and figure out how to articulate the concept and get other people to understand it. So teaching is an excellent way to improve your own comprehension. And then, of course, the other big way that people get involved is through the open source GitHub repo or repositories. We've got like several. Of course, we've got the main FreeCodeCamp GitHub repository, which has more than 50,000 GitHub issues and pull requests.
Wow.
So we're very proud of like how active it is and how many people have contributed over the years. And then, so you can just go there, and if you see something that can be improved about FreeCodeCamp, you can just report it. And a lot of people just show up and report, like we've never heard of them before, that maybe they've never even opened a GitHub issue before, but they're here reporting like some issue that they're having, like an accessibility issue or something. And then we can go in and we can fix it, or maybe we can guide them toward fixing the issue themselves. So we're really big on helping empower people to get involved in open source and learn how to use GitHub, learn how to use Git, learn how like a pull request workflow goes, and how to contribute productively to open source. Because I think contributing to open source is probably the best proxy for actually working on a distributed, like geographically distributed team, working remotely as a developer at a company.
Oh, you bet. And honestly, these contributions, if for all of you who are looking for a project, listen, we're still in Hacktoberfest. Get in there. There is a ton of issues. I think there are some labels for beginners, but if you have something to report, or if you have something that you want to contribute, like go to the GitHub repo for FreeCodeCamp. And if you don't have anything to contribute yet, or you're just starting learning, I tell you one thing you can do right now is go to this repo that's on the screen and start it for me, because I want to see it trending, because we got to sparkle some magic in it, because there has been just absolutely life-changing for so many of us. So let's go ahead and sparkle them and start them up now. So right now, there is the FreeCodeCamp GitHub, all the repos, everything lives there. I know you had an initiative to translate to different languages. I think Spanish, definitely.
Yeah, that's coming along great.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. And was that all community driven?
Yes, it's community driven. So we had some prolific contributors who were like, we really want this to be in Spanish. And Spanish, of course, major world language, as you know, spoken throughout Latin America, spoken here. There are 40 million Americans who speak Spanish. Wow. So if you look at the Spanish edition of FreeCodeCamp, we've translated, I think, the entire curriculum into Spanish. And we have, I don't know, nearly 1,000 tutorials and books translated into Spanish as well. I would say it's like our biggest, highest priority world language, just because of the importance here in the United States as well. So what we did was we hired a gentleman named Rafael, who is Mexican American. He grew up speaking Spanish, and he was in Los Angeles and he was very active in the FreeCodeCamp community. I'm like, hey,
Love that.
Rafael.
And this is how he
you
got his
help me?
job, by doing that community contribution, like
Yeah.
put himself out there. I love
I
this.
mean, he was working as an exterminator, going to people's houses and killing bugs.
Get out. Oh my God.
But he had the passion to learn, and he was demonstrating that. He was earning FreeCodeCamp certifications, and he was very active as an open source contributor. So yeah, like we brought him on. I think this is like 3 years ago, just like yesterday, I think, or this week was like his anniversary of FreeCodeCamp, and he's kind of revolutionized how a lot of the localization happens. And I can see somebody just commented, Yuri just commented that Rafael is amazing.
Yes, Rafael's got some fans. Shout out to Rafael for all that hard work.
Yeah, and so we work with Crowdin, which is a powerful tool, Ukrainian company. The gentleman who runs it, Sergey, he's like super chill. He's worked with us very closely to add features and make it more powerful. But essentially, you go to translate.freecodecamp.org, and you can just dive in. And we've also got like a Discord server where people can hang out and chat about like, oh, what should we prioritize next? And you can work very closely with Rafael. Each of the different world languages has like somebody in charge of it. And not every single language. Rafael's in charge of like French, for example. We don't have like a French speaker on our team yet who's doing the French translation. But a lot of it is like we just have French volunteer contributors, and he kind of like will work with them and share the process. But that's been a huge undertaking. And that now, of course, we have a Spanish podcast hosted by Rafael. And we also have a Chinese and a Portuguese podcast. So in addition, of course, to the English language podcast that I host. So we're heavily invested in helping people learn to code regardless of what their native language is. Yes, everybody should probably learn English. It's kind of like the global language of technology, the global language of business, and the language of science, really. Like if you publish in a scientific paper, a lot of the stuff's written in English. Yes, people should probably learn English, but it's harder to learn. Like I studied Chinese like in graduate school, and I spent like 6 years living in China. But if I had to like learn programming in Chinese, that would be so difficult for me.
It's so tough.
Right? Like, so, even though I can read and write and communicate and stuff, it's a lot of additional work if you're learning in your non-native English or non-native language. So for that reason, for us, localization is a very important way to extend accessibility to these resources, extend access.
Absolutely. And I see folks joining here from our Latin American communities, like people that have been super active. And the fact that they know who Rafael is, they've definitely been in there looking at the content in Spanish. And you're 100% correct. It does take an extra layer. You have to not only learn what you're learning, but also do the translation in your brain. There's a long paper research on like learning different things in multiple languages, and text is one of the hardest. So if you can learn it in your native language, it's going to be huge. And there's so many incredible courses right now. I want to share my screen because I want to, let's take us for a little
All right.
Let's go on a tour. Well, this tour is of the podcast, which I'm embarrassed I've been missing out because what? I should have known that this was a podcast. And actually the fact that you have one in Brazilian Portuguese and in Spanish is amazing. I love that. And then here is when you logged in. So when you log in, it's super easy. I love it. I love when places make authentication. I can log in with my GitHub account. If you don't have a GitHub account, you need to sign up for one anyway, so you can start having your portfolio, put it together when you get those big jobs. But look at this beautiful things. So this is definitely, it's been a while since I've logged in. There is a lot. There is a lot. So like right now, I could start any single one of these certifications. There is a lot. Data analysis, scientific computing, information security, college algebra, like this for the fundamentals of mathematics, for long-term for your career is gonna be huge. I love this. How do you decide what tracks you wanna add or what content you wanna incorporate as the learning paths?
Yeah, so we look at what people are already using, kind of like what do people already seem to want, right?
Yeah.
And coding interview prep, of course, very important thing. We want to make sure people have a lot of free. There are a lot of good paid preparation material too. Like you can go get books and stuff. But we just wanted to make sure there's a lot of practice that people could do for free. So a lot of the decision, what I do is I go to like Indeed.com, which is like a job search page, and I just type different terms and try to figure out, okay, like, and it's a pretty sophisticated process, lots of spreadsheets and stuff, but basically figure out, okay, what are employers looking for in aggregate? What skills do they care about, you know? And then we just also look at what computer science programs are teaching. So if like a whole bunch of computer science programs are teaching Python, and if they're requiring, for example, calculus, and if they're requiring linear algebra to be able to do machine learning, then we're going to cover that. So a lot of it is just looking at, like, a whole lot of other very smart people have done the research about what like the job market needs, and like we're kind of like listening to the market in a way. Because I mean, we could say, oh, I really like Svelte, for example. Like, let's just teach Svelte, right? Like, I am personally biased against Svelte because I really enjoy working with it, or Tailwind CSS or whatever, right? But the reality is, we don't really like, the number one priority is to help people go out and get a job so they can provide for their families. Exactly. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Help them learn the actual skills that are not going to like lead them to a certain point and plateau, but are going to keep being relevant for a long period of time. So we focus a lot on fundamentals. We focus a lot on math. We focus a lot on computer science. We focus a lot on, scripting languages. Of course, if you just want to move quickly, we could just teach you how to use WordPress. We could teach you how to use low-code tools. And we have tons of courses on those topics on YouTube, right, for example. And we have like these full-length books on those topics. But for the core curriculum, it's really like, okay, like you just need to learn the fundamentals really well. The fundamentals do not change. SQL has been used since like the 80s, yeah, right? C has been used since the 70s, maybe even the 60s, right? Like, so we want to focus on those kind of fundamental things.
Yeah, this is amazing. And as it is right now, the offerings are, you will find something. Someone in the chat asked if this was free. Yes, it's free. Can you believe it? All these amazing resources all put together. So you can just go in and log in and start learning now. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier, Quincy, about how, yes, you can start the linear path, but you can also explore. You don't have to, you're not tied down to one specific thing. So if you're brand new to tech and you're trying to figure out what is it that I like, this is a great place for you to go poke about and get a feel of what is actually going to call to you. Whether you're, if you're a numbers person, you're a data analysis person, you love C. I don't know. What's the new love? Everybody's new love was Python for a long time. I don't know where now. So like, this is a good place for you to come in and poke about and figure it out exactly what you want to do. Like, I love the flexibility of being able to switch tracks. Incredible. The site is looking amazing. I love that there is coding interview prep. That is so important, being able to go through that process, because then, not only do you learn how to learn, but you're also learning how to interview, which is such an important skill to have. For those of you who are asking how much it costs, you should know that, yes, it is a 503. It's a tax-exempt charitable organization. I am going to put the link for the donations because, hey, if you're now in a position where you can give back, whether it be time, contributing, or with some monies, let's do it. Let's keep this project growing and just reaching so many more folks than it already has. Quincy, can you share like around how many people have used, I don't know if it's public information, like how many people have you, or I don't know if you count by users or like.
Yeah, so we don't really count by users because a lot of people just show up and they like use it for a little bit and they move on, which is fine.
Right.
Yeah, but what we really care about is like how many people use FreeCodeCamp, I guess, every day. Okay. So we have 1 million people around the world that use FreeCodeCamp every day. And that's people watching the YouTube video courses. That's people using the core curriculum. That's people hanging out on the forum. That's people reading the books that we publish through FreeCodeCamp Press, which are like basically like online books. We don't do like EPUB or anything. It's just a lot easier to like update it in HTML. And it's also much more accessible because people have browsers on their phone. They don't necessarily have like, Kindle Reader or something. They're all proprietary formats. So we just keep it like straight HTML, CSS, like very fast loading web pages. Yeah. freecodecamp.org/donate. If you're able to support our charity, even $5 a month is like a huge help for us, just because the level of efficiency of our charity is so high that like $5 a month, you're literally providing like more than 100 hours of learning to people around the world. Like you're covering server time, you're covering the teachers we have on staff. Of course, payroll is like a big expense for our charity. So yeah, like it's a huge help. We've got about 8,000 people who donate each month, and we're hoping to get to 10,000 by the end of the holidays. That's like our goal for this year.
Let's put this in our Christmas or our Kwanzaa or our gifting, our present list, end of the year present from you to FreeCodeCamp. I see that you're also in sponsors, GitHub sponsors. So if you're already doing stuff in GitHub, you're already paying for an account, it's super easy for you to just click that little heart and start donating as well through there.
Yeah, we'd welcome that. And GitHub sponsors is actually one of the best ways to support us, because the fees are like really low and it's really transparent. With like Patreon and like PayPal and Stripe, it's a little more complicated. I love GitHub sponsors.
Yeah.
It's such a huge help to our charity.
Yeah, shout out to the developer outreach and GitHub sponsors team at GitHub, because I know they spend quite a bit of time thinking through how to keep that like that and make sure that, we're maximizing the impact of all of those donations for the projects that are doing the work. Quincy, this is so cool. You have so many followers on FreeCodeCamp on the GitHub repo. Where else can we go to follow you? Are you more active on LinkedIn, on X? Like, where, if folks want to continue to like get to know more about you and what you're up to?
Yeah, I post a few times on Twitter and LinkedIn each week. LinkedIn actually is an amazing place to get the word out. Like, I think it's very underrated. If you're looking to like get people to actually read what you write, LinkedIn is a great place to do that. And I also I send a weekly email newsletter to people, just telling them like, hey, here are 5 FreeCodeCamp resources that are worth your time. So I love
that. This is what I told you when I met you. It just came to me. I unsubscribe to every single thing that comes to my mailbox, but never the newsletter, because the newsletter is so valuable. That was my nervous wreck of like, oh my God, I'm changing. That was what I babbled. So it is a super valuable newsletter, folks. Go ahead and subscribe to it, because legit, you get some really cool resources, and you have a pulse on what's going on in the industry as well. So it does bring a lot more than you think just as an educational resource. Also, if you haven't subscribed to their YouTube channel, every amazing teacher that you see on YouTube, like, and the folks that are publishing at the FreeCodeCamp, that are writing this content, that are creating the videos, I mean, personally, like top-notch educators. And they put so much love in their courses, the YouTube video. Even if it's something short, you get exact, like, incredible amount of value from spending your time there. So subscribe to their YouTube, subscribe to the newsletter, put it on your wish list for Christmas, for your birthday, that you want to add a donation, and go ahead and follow Quincy on LinkedIn so that you can keep tab all the amazing information and everything that's new. Is there anything coming up that you want to share with us? Like, I don't know if there is like a larger roadmap. I think there were some comments about wanting to see maybe Kotlin, like everyone, wants to be like, what are you going to teach us about this? I don't know if there is anything coming up. Besides, of course, you just publish a book. So like,
so we've got like, the one thing I would add to that before I answer your question is check out the FreeCodeCamp podcast. Like, I'm publishing these every week, and I'm a big fan of Saran Yibarak, Code Newbie. And like, I basically like learned from her, like spent a great deal of time talking to her and trying to learn how she does podcasts. So FreeCodeCamp is very similar in that we're talking with developers as well, especially people that are relatively new to the field. Although I did recently interview Joel Spolsky, the founder of Trello and Stack Overflow.
Oh, wow.
I went to his house in New York and interviewed him. So that'll be on the FreeCodeCamp podcast soon. I'm getting ready within a few hours to publish an interview I did with a developer here in Texas who, really interesting guy, Kevin Miller. So there are going to be a lot of really good interviews, and there are already more than 100 episodes that you can listen to. So be sure to look for that in your podcast player of choice and just subscribe to that.
Go ahead and give it a subscribe, and then give it the 5-star in all the platforms. This has been so amazing, Quincy. I know I like asked for 45 minutes and we're at 49, and I apologize.
I can take it all day. This is amazing. I love this. So
I am
yeah, we
super
do have.
thrilled.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. We do have a lot of stuff coming. I won't like say it right now, but it's coming for Christmas.
Okay.
Christmas present to the community. So we've got a lot of exciting Christmas presents coming up.
Okay, well, now you know it. If you have not been following FreeCodeCamp in Quincy, go ahead and do it now, because I'm going to also be tuning into this big surprise. I think it's going to be really, really good. I have to ask you some more personal questions.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That we get to know you a little better. And I love some of the questions are, like the first programming language that you learned. I can't remember if you mentioned it or not when you were talking a bit about your...
Yeah, I think it was Python.
It might have, yeah.
Python's a good first language. JavaScript is the language that you can most readily go out and get a job with. Python is very close, and either of them would be a good first language in my opinion.
And both you can learn in FreeCodeCamp.
Yeah.
So there you have it. What is your favorite song of all time? I like this.
Oh man, I'm a huge fan of like the 1970s music, so I love Earth, Wind, Fire, Fantasy by Earth, Wind, Fire. Like that is just an amazing song. I also love Steely Dan, and they have this song called Deacon Blues. It's just like the coolest song. So if you haven't heard Deacon Blues, pull that up. It's just like kind of jazz rock. It's got that very 1970s high production, all live instruments, all master studio.
I love that vibe.
Performers. Amazing, amazing song.
I love that vibe. This is awesome. Okay, and then let's see if this is an interesting one. What emoji best describes you?
The camp emoji.
Ah, yeah.
I love the camp emoji.
Of course. Listen, there are some very musically educated folks on the chat, because they say Deacon Blues is legit. Like, people know I'm gonna have to play it out. I won't play it here, so we won't get copyright infringed, but I'm gonna have to check it out. Okay, and then finally, if money wasn't an issue, how would you spend your time?
Yeah, well, I'm in a very privileged position. I grew up with a U.S. passport. I grew up middle class. My father went to university. His father went to university. His father was like a farmer from Sweden. So I guess I'm like 4th generation American. But like, I'm just incredibly blessed, and I don't need a lot. I basically have everything I need. Most of the money that I do have, I just spend on my kids or save it in case something bad happens, because I don't want to like end up like with like a disability or something, unable to work. I just try to be very careful. So money isn't really an issue. So I can say that like I just would be doing exactly what I do right now, running education charity. So yeah, that might seem like kind of an uninteresting answer, but it's the truth.
No, not at all. Not at all. And what an amazing place to be in when you started this, like, in such a selfish and for a service to the community. And you get to enjoy it, and you get to do it, and it's the job. And I love that. I love that for us. I love that for me personally, because if it wasn't for this resource, I definitely would have hit the wall a lot more. I know that there were a couple of different things I looked at, and they all wanted a credit card. And that was a huge turnoff for me, because I didn't have expendable income to spend on courses.
Yeah.
So FreeCodeCamp was it. And that's
we'll never paywall anything. We'll never require a credit card. We don't even require you to sign in. You don't even have to give us your email address, and you can access everything. Absolutely. You can't track your progress without an email address, but we wanted to make it like completely easy for people to learn, because that's what it's all about. Like 60% of people on earth live off less than $10 a day, right? If you ask them for even $1, 70, 80% of people in the world don't have a credit card. Like I understand, like if you're trying to make like a business work and stuff, it definitely makes sense to like ask for a credit card, do like a free trial, do like a SaaS plan and stuff like that. I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying in terms of if you want to have the maximum impact you can have, the charity way is the way to go, because you can have like a very small percentage of the people who use FreeCodeCamp, less than 1% donate, but everyone gets the benefit thanks to the generosity of those few generous people.
I love that. You blew my mind when you said that even a $5 donation is 100 hours of free education resources for someone. So, there's not no too small amount that you can donate that can actually be super impactful. So don't get hung up on what you can give, but if you are able to, definitely go ahead and give, because I know that I'm not alone when I say, like, literally it changed my life, and so many here. Quincy, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us today, for taking the time to share your story. I'm gonna go read the book. Like, I need more.
Awesome.
I need to know the beginnings. I need to learn, like, because this must have been, we need to have a part 2, because every time someone tells me they're a career changer, they're self-taught, I'm like, at some point you have to sit down the people around you and tell them, hey, you gotta believe in this thing that I'm doing, because I think that we can do great things with this. And holy crap, that must have been an interesting conversation. I love it when families always, like, kind of come together, and it sounds like you have a great support system in your family and all that. So you're amazing. It's been absolutely incredible to have you here. I'm going to share all the links again. For those of you who've not gone to the GitHub repo, if you can give nothing today, give a start, folks, please. I'm going to go be checking it out. I'm going to go see what incredible, like, bump. I want to take the subscriptions to the podcast, subscriptions to the YouTube channel. And yes, Raphael, there is an audiobook version of Quincy's book, and this is probably how I'm going to actually listen to it.
This is the Raphael I was talking about, Raphael Hernandez.
This is Raphael Julia OG. Gracias. Oh my gosh, this is exciting. Thank you for joining, Raphael. I need to invite Raphael to do this in Spanish for Open Source Viernes, which is about to start after this. So, yeah. Raphael, you're hereby invited. Raphael is like, I don't know what they're getting me into. But the boss said it's okay, I think. No, but yeah,
absolutely. We would be through the roof to have him on at some point. No. Like, he's such a fascinating dude.
I mean, I love to learn this story about how it got so involved. And listen, you're not the first person that I've met. My first boss at GitHub got his job because of a community, because he was the most active contributor. He was the person that was helping others, and that's how he got his job. Like, another place than GitHub. Like, what? Because that recognition. So it pays to help, folks. It pays to help. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you to Quincy Larson. When I tell you changed my life, I'm not exaggerating. And we need a longer time so I can just go into all the soppy ways that this is truly, truly, truly been, like, just an incredible milestone for me to be able to legitimize what I knew and feel confident in what I knew. And now looking at the curriculum, looking at how much it's grown, the podcast, all the resources, the fact that you're trying to take this to developers where they are in their language, just incredible. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
I appreciate you so much. We're going to invite you again. There is some bazillion comments. I invite you, listen, next time you have a little time, scroll through the comments. I'm sure you get a lot of this, but so you can see, like, people from every corner of the world coming up and saying thank you. And I know we mean it. So I appreciate it. You're welcome to come anytime, please.
All right. Fantastic.
Join us anytime. I appreciate all of you for taking the time to spend with us here today. Don't forget to go ahead and follow Quincy. Don't forget to put even your $5 donation on your Christmas or Hanukkah or your gifting list. And we will see you next time for another Open Source Friday. Quincy, thank you. Honestly, this has been just absolutely delightful. I'm so grateful that you said yes.
Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time, folks. Don't forget to go ahead and give Quincy a follow. We'll see you in the next edition of Open Source Friday. Stay amazing. If you speak the Spanish or want to learn, stay with me, because we're coming right back to talk about Open API Colombia. Somebody in the community decided it needed to happen, so it's built, and we're going to speak about it in Spanish and Open Source Viernes. I will see you all next time. Thank you again, Quincy. You're the best.